What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Final Countdown show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm here with Titletown. I'm here with Bobby Gomes. We're talking NBA. We'll be talking NFL Showdown afterwards. We'll kick it off with you first, Bobby. How's it going over there? How was your Sunday?
Going well. Just seeing MVS take that to the house. Kind of hurts Adams. I have a lot of Adams, but is what it is. We'll keep chugging along. How you doing, Title?
Well, they're doing better after the MVS 75-yard touchdown. Go Packers. So I have Adams too, but Packers got to win to get the 1 seed. So excited to talk basketball too, though. Definitely a lot of money to be made in basketball still. We get an hour earlier lock. So excited to break it all down.
Title, you're definitely team your DFS lineups over the Packers, correct? At least you're on that bandwagon. Can you give me that?
Yeah, I mean, if MVS was 50% and I didn't have him, I would be really mad right now, but that doesn't hurt too much.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. I just wanted to confirm, and you sound
For
a little.
Sure.
Listen, I'm not as excited about the 75-yard, even though I'm a Packer fan, but I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Hopefully, we can get Adams some touchdowns. That would be nice to kind of close out this season for the Packers here. But we're here to talk NBA. We'll talk some NFL after. That showdown slate is bad, guys. We'll do our best to dress that thing up. But it's one of the worst showdown slates we got. But we're talking NBA here. And we had some really big news just hit. We had Luka Doncic is going to be ruled out. Titletown, I'll let you handle that news. How are you kind of handling that situation? Luka being out, does that just shake up the entire slate for you?
Yeah, so, I mean, that definitely is huge news. Jalen Brunson and Trey Burke and Josh Richardson, I would say, get the biggest boost. Just more guards, a lot more shots to go around. Luka just commands so much usage. So they make for really good plays. DraftKings especially. Brunson's 3.3K, Trey Burke's 3.4K. So the build becomes a lot easier. Even Finney Smith gets a little bump, 4.2K on DraftKings. A little more expensive, 4.4K on FanDuel, but definitely changes a lot, makes value open up a lot. And yeah, anytime a star like that's out, it changes. And we have to keep monitoring news on LeBron because he's also questionable.
Yeah, I mean, but he's questionable every day, right? Like, do you actually think he sits? Like, I don't think he sits, but of course, if he does sit, then there's a lot more value and Anthony Davis is a great spend up. Like, are you expecting him to sit, or you think it's one of those things that we just see every single day? And if it just happens, we're surprised and we just kind of react to it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm with you where I don't think he sits, but anytime a questionable thing's there, like, you don't know for sure, it's still worth monitoring. But yeah, he seems to be questionable every day and seems to always play. So I am with you on that.
All right, Bobby, answer that question. Is LeBron actually questionable? How are you handling that? And talk to me about LaMarcus Aldridge. How do you handle that news? Because he just got ruled out. Derek White was also ruled out earlier in the day. So there's a lot of usage to go around there. I think DeMar DeRozan could get a nice bump. Break down that Spurs situation for me.
Yeah, so definitely taking Derek White out, taking out Aldridge, or giving a bump. I love DeJounte Murray in tournaments. I think DeRozan definitely gets a bump as well. And then on the other side of it, basically hitting on like the LeBron stuff, just like Kuzma, KCP's out in that situation too. So maybe we see Horton Tucker sees more run. If LeBron sits, maybe he moves in a situation where he's more playable. I think he's playable with KCP out. Kuzma is going to slide in and start for KCP. I think that was the news that we got. Is that correct, Mangone?
What'd you say? KCP is getting who's sliding in for KCP?
Kuzma.
I didn't see that, but like I'll admit, like I mean, that's not something I'm really thinking is like too big of news that I need to be all over, I guess, right now. But I could totally understand that. Like he can make sense in tournaments. But yeah, KCP being out isn't really something that's like super on my radar. I just like kind of tagged that he was out, and I guess we got to kind of wait and see. Obviously, if LeBron is out, Kuzma would be like an elite value, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, Kuzma and Horton Tucker, I think would be guys that would be viable to play in that situation.
Yep, definitely makes some sense there. But let's dive in. Let's go position by position. We will talk about the point guards first, and we'll go over to you first, Titletown. So point guard. Yeah, so Titletown, point guard will be a spot where we want to go. We want to play Jalen Brunson. We want to play, we want to go to I'm blanking on his name right now. Jalen Brunson, Trey Burke. Those are the guys that you want to get some exposure to on this slate. But on the other end, we have Steph Curry. We also have, Russell Westbrook there. So please give me that breakdown on that. And while you're doing the breakdown, guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. It would help us out a ton. So hit the like and subscribe while Titletown breaks down the point guard position between the value plays and the studs that are on this slate.
Yeah, so I mean, this slate is now loaded, especially point guard with the Luka news. So now in the bottom tier, we have Trey Burke, we have Brunson, both 3.7K on FanDuel, 3.3K on DraftKings for Brunson, 3.4K. I lean Trey Burke, I think. We haven't got a starting lineup yet, though, correct? I haven't seen one at all. So
no starting lineup. I haven't seen one. You might not get one till after lock day. Like I wouldn't be surprised if you don't, because like is that a 7 or 8 o'clock game? Like the lock is at 6. I don't know if you get that lineup.
Yeah, I don't think we do. So they're both the same price. I view them pretty similarly. I think I lean Trey Burke. I think he might start. I think he gets the start, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. But both of those guys stand out as great plays, bunch more shots, more minutes. Then we go all the way up to the upper tier. Steph Curry's 9.8K, Kyrie's 9.5K, Dame's 9.3K. All just complete studs on their team and just take over like the usage of the ball. So I think Steph stands out the most because he's on his own team. No one around him really takes up there's Wiggins, there's Oubre and that, but Dame's fighting with McCollum. He's fighting with little Nurkic, some other good guys on the team. Kyrie has KD, LeVert, Joe Harris, and all that. So Steph just has the most usage. If you can find the money for him, I think he is my favorite. If you can't find it though, I'm fine saving the 300 with Kyrie, saving the 500 with Dame, and then a couple mid-tier routes. Kobe White, 6.1K. He stands out a lot against Dallas. I don't think Trey Burke or Brunson can really guard him. He has had like 25% usage rate lately, just commands the ball off for this team. So I like him in that range if you fall there. And then Ricky Rubio at 4.9K. I don't think you need him as much now with Luka news out and Trey Burke and Brunson in the equation, but he still stands out as a fine tournament play for sure. And if you land, there's a last piece in cash. I don't hate it as well.
Yeah, let me go to you, Bobby, and talk about the point guard position. So like now we have all this value that's opened up, and this value is it's absolutely elite, right? It's just such great value plays that you want to get on. But you can make the case that if you let's say you played Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, right? And you avoided some of those value plays or maybe mixed them in, you can basically have a really interesting tournament construction. So talk to me about the point guard position and how you're handling this one here.
Yeah, like Russell a lot, really high number for a double-double, and he's also hit a triple-double in pretty much every start. Steph Curry as well, just very good projections on Steph, and if everyone's going to be building using basically these lower-owned values of the point guard position, I don't think Steph's going to be very contrarian. The way I think that you can kind of get different is maybe play a Kyrie. I think that he's someone who you definitely have to consider in that pace-up game versus Washington. Also, DeJounte, we talk about, like Derek White was ruled out. You're taking out the usage from LaMarcus Aldridge. So I think DeJounte Murray gets a really good bump here. He's around like 6-7 on DK. So he's someone I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, Murray definitely would be probably a guy that gets lower owned than maybe he would have if we got news earlier. Or not earlier. If basically what I'm trying to say is if we didn't get the Luka news, I think Murray would have higher ownership, right? Because of how great a play he would be on the slate. And some of the value plays were more at forward position, but now there's more value with the guard. So Murray definitely makes some sense as a really, really nice tournament option. I'm trying to think. So again, you don't think Curry's going to have some ownership, right? But Bobby, like basically if you played Murray, Westbrook, and Curry, right? Like that would be a super unique build, right? Do you want to mix in those guard value plays? And if you did avoid those Mavs guard values, would you go to maybe like some of the forward plays instead? That's kind of what the breakdown I'm trying to think through for a tournament construction.
Yeah, so I think Richardson and Hardaway should be guys that you should consider if you're spending up at guard. I think a way to differentiate Curry, you could probably play Nurkic. He's way too cheap on DK, and I think he's too cheap on FanDuel as well. So he would be someone I'd be looking to build in with Curry as kind of like a mini game stack there. And yeah, Richardson should get a bump, especially in FD. Like Richardson does a ton stocks wise that you're going to want to get him in there. And also Hardaway Jr. just never seen a shot he didn't like. So I don't mind paying up at him at shooting guard or small forward to basically get away from like the Burks and the Brunsons, if that's the route you choose to go.
Yep, definitely would make some sense to go there. Before we go to shooting guard, I do want to mention some of the NBA content we have going on here. We got the cash chart, which me and Hoop work on. We basically give you kind of the guys that we're looking at in our cash games. We got the core plays, Bobby and Title. They are on the core plays. Title Town. Let's talk about some of the other content you got over there. What's your favorite piece? What's one of your favorite things, the NBA content that we got over here?
Well, my favorite piece is always Discord, to be honest. Discord, there's nothing even close that compares. The core plays are cool. I enjoy these shows and everything, but Discord is, I mean, we're always in there, all the experts dropping knowledge in all the different sports. So that's definitely my favorite, but I am adding my core plays up on the site right now. And I know I think other people have, I'm not sure who else is on the course today, but yeah, they're all good stuff, but Discord is definitely, if you're not in Discord, I'd recommend hopping in.
Bobby, how about you? What's your favorite piece? What's your favorite thing of NBA content we got over here?
Yeah, definitely the Discord. Guys, if you're a member and you're not like utilizing Discord, you're really doing yourself a disservice. You can pretty much talk to any of the coordinators. They all will shoot information back at you. You can add us. Like pretty much Title said, I just think it's an undervalued aspect of like our product in general. So hitting on Discord, make sure you're in there.
Yep, get in there. Tons of awesome stuff going there. Tons of awesome news that gets broken too as well. Let's talk about the shooting guard position now. And Title Town, we'll go over to you. I assume, I don't know, is Tim Hardaway Jr. on FanDuel, is he small forward or shooting guard eligible? I forget which one he is.
Small forward.
Yeah, he's small forward, right? But shooting guard, you got guys like Zach LaVine who's on the slate, right? Zach LaVine is a great play. Obviously, you can go to tons of different options. Josh Richardson, I believe, is actually shooting guard eligible there. So I'm sure he's a value play that you're looking at. Break down the shooting guard position for me here.
Yeah, so right away, Josh Richardson stands out. He's only 4.8K. Luka's out. He plays already over 35 minutes a game anyway, so he stands out as a smash play. Then there's Zach LaVine up top at 7.7. I like him more than Paul George and D-Russ. He's right in the middle. I think 7.7 is too cheap for his usage, so he stands out as a great play if you can get him. If you need some savings, Andrew Wiggins at 6.3K as well. Gets a solid matchup against Portland. I like targeting this game. I think it's up tempo. 6.3K for the amount of usage and shots he puts up. Makes a lot of sense. He gets the occasional steals and blocks as well, which fits FanDuel well. And then the last guy that you can, Horton Tucker. I know Bobby mentioned we still have to monitor LeBron news. We will get that news pretty shortly in the lineup. So if he comes in the starting lineup or if LeBron's out, he becomes a great play. And then Gary Harris at 4K as well. Just seems too cheap right now for his role, and all the Denver guys get a little bump. So I like Gary Harris, but he's more of a tournament play now, I think, with Richardson now just becoming the chalk, and it's just a smash play.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely makes some sense there at the shooting guard position. Again, really good spot. And I do think a lot of people are going to be spending down there, right? Bobby, we'll go to you. Again, I think people are spending down at their shooting guard spot. Break it down for me in tournaments. Good chalk, bad chalk, guys like Jalen Brunson, Trey Burke, who are guard eligible. You talked about it a little bit before, but are there any other shooting guard options now that you want to go to instead?
Well, D'Angelo Russell is someone that kind of burned everyone else. I just can't play these T-Wolves. Really worried about the blowout here. So I don't mind maybe taking the pass on D-Russ. I like Kobe White at 6'2" on DK. I think he's fine. Maybe going up to Zach LaVine. I have a bunch of Zach LaVine. I think he's too cheap right now on DraftKings. So he's someone who I would be looking to spend up on in tournaments. And then like we talked about it, Tim Hardaway Jr., and then also in that same situation, Josh Richardson are good plays at the shooting guard position, respectively.
Yeah. And I mean, we haven't really even talked about too much. Like, so I don't get, like, I basically looked at this slate and I thought, okay, I'm playing Brooklyn and I'm playing Washington guys, right? I thought that they would just be guys that would be playing, and they're really not guys that we're loading up on. How do you feel about like Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, like those guys? Like, they're just not getting the ownership. Kyrie Irving. Bobby, I mean, we talked about the guards a little bit, and there's a ton of other elite guards too, but Bradley Beal at shooting guard seems like a great play here against Brooklyn. How would you handle him?
Yeah, just Westbrook's eating so much into his usage. For me, I think it's good to be overweight on Westbrook situationally here. I just don't think the Nets really want to play any defense. And in that scenario, I would be running him back with either Durant or Kyrie. I think you're doing at most one if you're grouping that. for Durant or Kyrie. Like, you're not playing Durant and Kyrie together on the slate, but if you're running, it's obviously extremely expensive. But with Westbrook, I think running it back with Durant or Kyrie. Durant's still too cheap on DK, in my opinion, and Kyrie's going to be lower owned than he should be. So with this game and the total and the lack of defense, like, these are guys you should be targeting in tournaments.
It definitely makes sense. Title, let me ask you this question. So in tournaments, like Zach LaVine now, I think on FanDuel will have more ownership. Do you think D'Angelo Russell is a good pivot, or do you think D'Angelo Russell is just kind of bad chalk and just isn't a great play? Because again, we're worried about blowouts, right? I'm at least looking at blowouts a lot more and trying to kind of decipher, should I play these guys based on it could blow out? So how do you feel about that with D'Angelo Russell?
Yeah, so I think I'd rather it makes sense. I just don't love the matchup today. I think I'd rather go just like a different roster construction and go like a Gary Harris or a Dennis Schroeder or a Horton Tucker. We did get news that LeBron is in, so that's what we expected. Nothing's going to change too much, but that's something monitoring. But I don't love D-Russ today, so I'm not going to recommend him, but he is in play for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the one thing I can get behind with D-Russ, and again, I know it hasn't been fun to roster, but if you look at Denver, they have been terrible defensively. They have not been good. Obviously, Porter being like, you want Porter in there because of how bad his defense is, I guess, but they have been struggling a ton defensively. Will Barton isn't a guy that I think is great on defense either. So yeah, I think that can make some sense to attack, with maybe D'Angelo Russell, run it back with him. We talked about Rubio before. Again, these Minnesota guys, they have struggled and haven't been able to keep things close, but Denver's defense is a bit of a struggle so far to start out the season. Let's head on over to the small forward position. And Bobby, I'll head on over to you. Talk about small forward over on DraftKings today. Obviously, if LeBron is in, he could be a good play, but I mean, I don't want to go to him. Kawhi, it's just like, these are guys that I typically, would want to spend on these studs, but with the way that the bubble has affected this start of this season with these guys not getting as many minutes, I don't think I'm going there. I think I'm looking at the mid tier. I think I'm starting at DeMar DeRozan. So talking about DeMar and some of the other small forward options.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan makes for a great play with LaMarcus Aldridge being out. I like DeMar at 7.5. Will Barton's another guy at 5.4. My issue with Barton, and I think that he's going to be very chalky, is that Jokic just basically soaks up so much usage in terms of like on that starting unit, but Will Barton's still too cheap at 5.4. So definitely a lock in cash games. But there's blowout risk in this game too. Like, I'm not as bullish, I feel, as the industry is on the Nuggets in general, but in cash, like, you're definitely looking at Will Barton. Yeah, that would pretty much cover it. Thad Young, does he have small forward eligibility on DK? I'm just wondering. He would be another guy.
I know he's the power forward eligibility over on FanDuel. On
He's
DK,
power forward only.
Forward only. Yeah, we'll hit on power forward in a bit.
You'll head on when we get over there. Title, let's head on over to you. Talk to me about the small forward position over on FanDuel. I do think I want to mention, I think we're spending down on some guys. So we have to spend up somewhere, Title. We just can't leave all the money on the table. So are you spending on Durant, or are you going down to some other options?
Yeah, I think spending up is good in tournaments and going KD or LeBron, but there's just so much value now with the news. There's Otto Porter at 4.4K. There's Barton at 5K. There's Tim Hardaway now at 5.3K. Derek Jones, who's getting over 30 minutes, is 4K. Dorian Finney-Smith is 4.4K. Kelly Oubre, who I'm not sure anyone's going to play, but he's only 5.2K, and we've seen his ceiling in the past. So I'm only going to list those guys because I just listed 6, but all 6 of those guys are in play. And if there wasn't so much value, I mean, they all grade out really well for me. So I probably the Dallas guys. So Tim Hardaway, Finney-Smith, and then Otto Porter just hasn't moved at all in his price. So he's still 4.4K, which is way too cheap. But small forward is loaded. I don't think it's a pay up spot for cash though, but it'll make your lineup very different in tournaments if you do that.
We should have hit on Richardson too with the small forward position on DK. Richardson and Horton Tucker, but we pretty much talked a bunch about both of them.
Well, how does Horton Tucker grade out now? Because Horton Tucker, I think, was going to be someone that people would play more, but now with all this Dallas value, he goes completely under-owned. But again, this Dallas value is really good, right? Like, I want to play this Dallas value. I don't think I want to play Horton Tucker instead. What do you think of that, Bobby? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Which game's ahead? The Lakers start at 7, so maybe if you're trying to leave some swap equity, Well, you wouldn't be able to leave some swap equity in that scenario. Basically just going to the Dallas guys would be the best case. But if you wanted to be different in GPPs, you could play Horton Tucker if we get news that LeBron is out.
LeBron's in.
Oh, he's in?
Yeah, he's in, available to play. That we just kind of got that recently. The chat gave us that update. So I'm sure they're going to be spamming the chat and saying that again. Guys, if you could please hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. We would appreciate it a ton. Also wanted to mention, we have NFL playoff content coming. We'll have tons of premium content. We'll have some free stuff too. So be on the lookout for that. I think I'll be doing my DFS and bet show. Not sure. We haven't like finalized the NFL content, but that's normally a free one we have. I don't know what the podcasts are doing and everything, but we'll figure it out and we'll, kind of make the plan this week and we'll have a nice little schedule for you guys, but be on the lookout for it. NFL content, I feel like it crushed today. It's doing pretty well. I know I'm doing pretty well. Title's doing well, it sounds like, and Bobby's not doing bad too. So we're all looking like we're in good shape. So check out the NFL content, hit that like and hit that subscribe for us. Let's talk about the power forward position. Titletown. Again, we got to spend somewhere. So is it Anthony Davis we're spending on over on FanDuel? Like, I don't want to spend on Anthony Davis, but I just can't like spend down on every single position or else I'm leaving $10,000 on the table. So how are you breaking this down for me over on FanDuel at the power forward spot?
Yeah, you pretty much hit it right on the head. I mean, there's so much value on the slate. You have to pay up somewhere. AD's 10,000, power forward. I don't mind it. If you have the salary, you just take the raw points and move on. We know AD's ceiling, especially with stocks on FanDuel. Just take it if you have the money. Otherwise, you have good options in the lower tier as well. You have Naz Reid at 4.9K, Robert Covington at 5.2K, Thaddeus Young at 4.2K, Maxi Kleber now. We haven't talked about Dallas getting a bump, but he still does get a bump. Everyone gets a bump without Luka because that's so many more shots to go around, and Luka rebounds too. So there's more rebounds in play. Royce O'Neal, 3.9K. I'm not going to go all the way down there, but yeah, it's AD at the top by himself. If you have the money, I'm perfectly fine playing him. Otherwise, it's Naz Reid, Robert Covington, Thaddeus Young, or Maxi Kleber that also grade out really well and are affordable.
Yeah, so Luka normally gets the rebounds, right? Like Maxi just lets him get the board. Powell, like, do they let THJ and Josh Richardson get the board, or they finally actually hog the rebound?
No, I think now that Luka's out, I think they're going up
that situation. Have you ever evaluated that one?
Yeah, no, that's kind of like Giannis and other stuff too, where they let that happen. So now with Luka out, I think they're hogging the rebounds. Whoever is closest to the ball and can get the rebound, I think's grabbing it. Because they used to do that with Westy and stuff too. So I know what you mean. And yeah, I think there's more rebounds to go around now.
It is absurd to watch. I always watch it just like, why, like if I don't fade Luka, I'm like, why are you like not getting the board? But yeah, that's how it is. And when you obviously play Luka, then you're just excited about all the rebounds that he grabs. Bobby, we'll head it over to you. You talked about power forward. Thaddeus Young was a guy that you mentioned. Break it down for me. How are you handling the power forward position over on DraftKings?
Yeah, Thad Young, obviously in cash, is going to really stand out in the same respect. Paul Millsap. To be different in tournaments, like I really like Kevin Durant. I think he's a really strong play, especially if you like. This is the highest total game on the slate. It'd be kind of, I feel like it's not being as owned as it probably should be, just because we're getting a ton of value and things are opening up. So, yeah, Kevin Durant would be someone I'm pretty bullish on. And then on the other side of that, just looking for him, Robert Covington is another one at 5K. I think he's cash game viable. That would pretty much be it. In terms of the power forward position, like AD, LeBron, I'm not really getting to those guys just because I feel like a blowout. I know we're not in the business of predicting blowouts, but it looks like it could be pretty possible in this scenario. So I like KD. He'd be my flag planet power forward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like KD a bit. I think KD's a really good option today. Again, it just depends. I mean, obviously with him being power forward eligible, that helps because you can go those guards and that makes things work there. I guess any final thoughts here at the power forward position title? Like, do you have any DraftKings takes over there on it? Because I do think Thaddeus Young is really good. Like DeMar DeRozan is another guy. Like I think forward eligibility is really good for him there. I know I talked him up. Am I crazy to like DeMar DeRozan that much?
No, I think DeMar DeRozan 7,500 still feels a little too cheap, and with Alme out, he gets a big bump. Yeah, like Kevin Durant, that's big on DraftKings that he is power forward eligible. If he was power forward eligible on FanDuel, we'd like him a lot more, but so that makes a ton of sense. Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't know how much you talked about him. I know he's small forward and power forward eligible, but he gets a big bump, and he can get that sneaky double once in a while, a 10 points, 10 rebounds type of night without Luka. So he grades out well for 4.2K as well.
Is Bertan still on the minutes limit? What's the situation with him?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know exactly, but he has been on that annoying minutes limit, and I don't see it. I don't see it being a situation that's changing like too quickly. So I don't know. Especially keep in mind it's a blowout
He's
too.
at
Possibly
4.7 too. I feel like if he gets like 23, he can still make value at 4.7.
Yeah, I guess that could be interesting in tournaments. Would you play him do you think he plays more in the blow, or do you think you want to play him in a stack? Like, do you want to run KD back if you're playing Bertans? How do you handle that one, Bobby?
Yeah, I think that's a way to differentiate it. Maybe play some Bertans, try to get ahead of it. If he does get more minutes, hopefully this game stays closer than what the line is saying. Denny Avdija as well. I think he's someone at the power forward position at 5,300. He could see blowout run, like he is a rookie. So I think they're guys that you can kind of be different in tournaments and go to.
Alrighty then. Yeah, guys, if you could please hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. Helps us out a ton here. Enjoying hanging out with you guys. And also don't forget, once we kind of close off the NBA stuff, stick around. We're going to talk some NFL Showdown tonight. Got some good info to talk about with that. Can't wait to kind of break it down with you guys. It's not the nicest slate in the world, but I do think there's some edges that we can kind of talk about there. So we'll just stick around. Once we kind of get to the end of the NBA show, we will be talking the NFL stuff. And hey, if you want to go and watch the NFL game and then tune in later, feel free to do that as well. Let's go over to you, Titletown, center position. We got all this money to spend, so I think I know what you're doing, but tell me here, how are we breaking down the center spot?
Yeah, so Jokic stands out up top. I mean, you have the money, 10-8, or no, he's 10-6 on FanDuel. Makes a ton of sense, but there's now with LMA out, Jakob Poeltl's at 4.2K, and people might in tournaments, and I don't think cash yet. I think you really want to pay up, but you can go Jakob Poeltl, then pay up at like a small forward position for Durant, and just get different elsewhere, or not play one of the two guards on Dallas for value and pay up for both like Dame and Steph. And there's definitely other routes you can go. And I don't think Jokic is a lock, but he just fits the build that where the value isn't, or I mean, Poeltl's value, but there's not value like point guard. There's a ton of value that really stands out. Small forward, there's a ton of value with not a lot up top. So I think it's just going to be a very popular build, and center just people are going to pay up at. So I like Jokic as a spend up option. Otherwise, I like Jakob Poeltl 4.2K, and then Nurkic at 6K and Thomas Bryant at 5.8K. I think make a lot of sense in tournaments because no one's really going to go to that mid-tier build, and both guys have upside. I mean, we haven't really seen it from Nurkic yet, but his price keeps coming down. So 6K, he can easily blow that out. But I think it's Jokic or Poeltl.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Jokic and Poeltl. Is it for sure Poeltl? I think it is Poeltl, but I always call him Poeltl because that's what it looks like. Is that correct? Title?
Yeah, it looks like it, but I've always said Poeltl. Everyone says Poeltl, so yeah, I'm calling him Poeltl.
I'm like Ron Burgundy, man. If I see what it says, that's what it is, and I kind of stick with it. Like I think Montrez, I call Montrezl Harrell. I call him like Montrezl Harrell because I just like to mess up with his name. And I give people nicknames, so yeah, it just kind of happens. Bobby, we'll go over to you at the center position. We got Jokic right at the top. Obviously, a good play. Thomas Bryant in that first game, like I love targeting the Nets with centers typically, right? It's a little different now. The team's a little different, but Thomas Bryant has been crushing it. The fantasy point per minute's been good. Is he a guy you can go to, or is Jokic just the guy you want to lock onto all of your lineups with Porter out?
So I'm completely off Jokic in tournaments. I like Thomas Bryant. I like Gobert. I like Nurk. I just want to get different. There's just too much blowout risk. A lot of builds too, like Naz Reid on FanDuel. He's 4.9, so it doesn't really matter, but I think he's a guy that's going to be pretty chalky in a lot of people's lineups. If they just run optimizers and don't group like Reid away from Jokic, Reid could get in a foul trouble. And with Jokic on that side, like I'm just worried about basically blowout in that situation. So getting off Jokic for me is like basically a way to differentiate construction. Going to like a guy like Gobert, Thomas Bryant, like you said. These are all guys I'm considering. And Nurkic, I think Nurkic is a great play as well. So that would be pretty much where my center player pool's at right now.
Title, let me ask you about Nurkic. is Nurkic broken? Like, he has definitely not been the best so far. They have some injuries though on the front court, or not in the front court, on the wings, which could maybe help him out a little bit. Guys like Rodney Hood who could steal up some usage, and CJ McCollum has just been absolutely dominating in the usage department on that Blazers team. Do you think that shifts at some point here? Does that make Nurkic a good tournament play over on FanDuel?
Yeah, see, I've been trying to decide that forever because not forever, but since the start of NBA, because I've played Nurkic probably like 3 or 4 days in a row because he expected to have a bigger role. But yeah, I'm really starting to believe that he's just not a part of the offense like he used to be. And McCollum, Dame, Cantor, they've shown that they're fine going to him late down the stretch too. Because he's a great offensive player. It really depends on his defense and the pick and roll situation. But Nurk isn't even that good in the pick and roll. So yeah, I'm not expecting Nurkic to be this 7K guy anymore. I think 6K is pretty much where he's going to be, maybe even a little lower. But I think he's going to have those games once in a while where he gets a couple blocks or he gets a couple steals or they feed him on the pick and roll more than not. And so I do think he has a ceiling still and he'll have a blowout game, but I'm not as high on Nurkic this year in this offense.
Yeah, definitely some concerns. Obviously can change throughout the season. So we'll have to see what they end up deciding to do there. I guess, Bobby, give me some final takeaways on this slate, and then we'll answer some questions here. So give me your final GPP strategies and takeaways.
Yeah, now you're just scaring me off Nurk. 6'4", I thought like maybe we were getting down to a price where we can play him. Yeah, Steph Curry's the play pretty much everywhere. He was who I was going to run back Nurkic with. Now they're kind of putting in my head that I shouldn't play Nurkic, but I'm going to stay on Nurkic, hope for the best. In that scenario, GVPs, I'm going to be off Jokic tonight. I feel like everyone's going to be on him. Everyone's been on him. He's been crushing. He's just not someone I want to play. I'm just trying to get different, playing some of these Nets, Kyrie, Durant, and Westy. I'm going to go to Westy as well. Go Bears got a great number at the center position. Like him at 7-2 also. So I think that's pretty much like my route.
Yeah, guys, throw some questions in the chat. And Title, did you guys give away swag yesterday? What happened on the show? I wasn't tuning in. Did you guys give away swag for a certain amount of likes?
I do not believe we did yesterday, actually, now that you mention it.
Well, listen, guys, you're at 28 likes, which is, this is just hurtful. I know we don't got a ton watching. Everyone's watching NFL. I get it. But hit that like for us. And if we can get that thing up. I
can't believe they're not watching. This is the show they got to watch.
This over all the division games. Listen, you know what they're doing, Bobby? Some of them are sweating out, the real grinders who are the NBA guys that are really just out there grinding away, playing all the slates, no days off. They're here with us, and we appreciate them. So, guys, get that thing to 60 likes for us. We don't want to get out ratioed to our. Get it to 60. We'll give away free swag on the show here. Please do that. Let's answer some questions though, because we saw some interesting ones in the chat. Hunter Weaver said Steph Lillard stacked for me. Bobby, what do you think about that one?
Steph Lillard makes a ton of sense. Definitely get Steph Curry in your lineups today, and definitely going back to Lillard. You're definitely going to get Lillard lower owned than you probably should, and it could be one of those point guard games like when they're going back and forth. So I don't mind that at all. I think that's a great take.
All right. Karis LeVert with the Nets favored 17.5 points. Seems like a great play. I don't think they're 17.5 point favorites. I think they're 9-point favorites. I don't know what line you're looking at, but it is an interesting thought. I'll go to you, Title. Karis LeVert, do you like him as a interesting option with them? Kind of maybe getting that blowout run.
Yeah, I see it at 7.5, but I'm always fine with Karis LeVert in tournaments just because he's a good basketball player. Even if it's not in a blowout, in the second unit, he commands most of the usage. He can get hot, and then they'll run him out more minutes. So I'm totally fine with it.
Bobby, top center option over on DK. Mine is Jokic. How about you?
Yeah, I was going to Nurk. I'm gonna stick with Nurk. I'm gonna go Nurkic.
There you go. We got one guy in the chat. So Bobby W said, he said, God bless you guys for playing NBA DFS. Those guys don't really care. Well, listen, there's money to be made over here at Run Pure Sports. So Bobby W, get in, enter on some DraftKings, get over here on the site and get the winners, man. We're going to take this thing down. We are trying to win these slates while people are sitting there sleeping at the wheel, right? Some people are sitting there. They didn't maybe adjust to the Luka news, and we're trying to get that edge. So please do that, Bobby. Join us and let's take it all down. Let's go and talk to, let's see, Zach has a good question. Zach Swisher, James Johnson, DK power forward. What do you think about that one, Titletown? I want to get that one from you.
James Johnson. So I haven't looked at him. At all. I think there's better options. He could make for a really low owned pivot off of like Finney Smith, but I think that might just be getting too cute, to be honest.
Okay, Bobby, how about you? Let's get your take on that, because you're a tournament guy. Is that getting too cute there, or is that the proper pivot?
I think it's getting too cute. I'm not looking at James Johnson really.
That's funny because I'm different on that. I actually don't think it's a bad play because he's like kind of a ball handling kind of guy. And like, I'd rather that over Maxi Kleber and Powell if I had to pick, right? Like if I was doing it, but I don't think you need to do it. Obviously it depends on your full construction. And if you're going out and you're playing all of these, guards, right? If you're going out and you're playing Curry and Westbrook and all of them, then I think I would maybe go to James Johnson, because I think it's all about that full lineup construction. Let's go over to you, Titletown, or let's go to Bobby on this one. Keldon Johnson on DK. What's your thoughts on him as a nice contrarian option?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. Obviously he just went off. I think I'd rather just go with the Will Bartons or the Josh Richardsons or guys like that. But obviously you're taking a lot of usage out in that offense for the Spurs. So I 100% get going to Keldon Johnson. Do I think he can replicate the 55 again? I think down the road, but maybe not tonight. I think it's going to be probably difficult for him to do that 2 games in a row. So not on Keldon.
All right, Titletown. Question specifically for you in the chat. What's your thoughts on the mid-tier point guards, Murray and Murray, double Murray build? What's your thoughts on doing that over on FanDuel here?
I mean, that'll be super, super low owned. So yeah, I think it's fine for large field tournaments. I don't think you need to really do that in smaller field tournaments because there's just so many good options up top and down below, but you'll be unique for sure. So it makes sense. And I don't mind Murray. I don't mind those two also. I also like Kobe White in the mid tier too. You can throw in there.
Yeah, I think if you did that, like I would make sure to play Josh Richardson and Tim Hardaway Jr. Wouldn't you agree, Titletown? Because I think you would just assume that those guys just soak up this massive usage and do pretty well. Or are you just saying, hey, it's going to be a blowout and like the Bulls blow out the Mavs? I mean, is that crazy to think that could happen?
No, yeah, I would probably probably both or at least one for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. I'd probably do both because that's your leverage off of the other guard. So I like that call.
All right. Well, listen, we got no more questions unless we get some NBA news that pops up. I guess let's each give like our favorite like tournament play, and then we'll talk about some NBA. So, Bobby, we'll go over to you. Who's your favorite tournament option on this slate?
I'm gonna go Westy.
All right, Mr. Russell Westbrook is your guy. Let's go over to you, Titletown. Who is your tournament guy that you want to get some exposure to?
On DraftKings, so I'll give you 2. On DraftKings, I'll go Rudy Gobert, and on FanDuel, I'll go Damian Lillard.
Oh, nice. Rudy Gobert. I definitely don't mind Rudy. He's a guy I wish I would have been playing more, and I was trying to, but haven't really been able to get on him as much as I wish I could have. Let's see. I'm trying to find a nice tournament guy that I can give. I'm trying to look for a little bit of a lower owned play. Let's see. I mean, listen, I really like DeMar DeRozan. I love the Spurs. I think it's a good spot for DeMar. So I'll give you him as an option that I think is a really, really good play here. He could be owned in some cash game lineups too. He might not be like this, like 2% on play or anything, but I think DeMar DeRozan is a really good option. Let's talk about this showdown slate. I guess let's start talking about the captains. Now, before we kind of do that, I do want to talk about the overall slate breakdown. Now, I have some concerns about Jalen Hurts. There are talks of Jalen Hurts sitting in this game. There's talks of him basically playing the first half, and then second half, you're going to see Chase Daniel go in there. The problem is, I think you can make a case this slate is so disgusting that Jalen Hurts could be enough if he just runs enough, all right, gets a rushing touchdown. It could be enough to have him in the flex spot. But that's just news you want to kind of take note of. You want to look at actives and inactives and see what happens. Maybe we get some rumblings that, maybe Jalen Hurts only plays the first quarter. And if that's the case, man, like if Jalen Hurts is going to be owned by people, he's a great fade because he could be like 60 to 80% owned and can be a really interesting option to just not be playing on this slate. So Bobby, I'll go to you first. I would say you're not playing Jalen Hurts in the captain. I think it's a terrible idea to play him in the captain right now. And then in the flex, how would you handle him? Because I think you would be on the side of maybe fading him with some of the talk that I'm talking about here.
Yeah, interested in fading him. For I don't know, it's just like a really tough play overall. In terms of like this slate in general. I'm just been having issues with it. Who would you consider for a captain?
So I'll admit I haven't built a ton, right? I haven't made a ton of lineups, and like again, this is a really, really ugly slate. And again, raw points are a thing. Like you need to roster 6 spots. So I'm pulling it up now just to kind of see how it all looks. And when you pull it up, there's not a lot of guys to spend on, right? You see McLaurin with the questionable tag. Antonio Gibson is likely going to play, but again, the Eagles
like really... Logan Thomas. Do you think you could go there?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously it depends on how you fill out the rest of your spot. I mean, you could go with Logan Thomas. I don't hate that idea. We know Alex Smith likes to pepper guys like McKissick and Logan Thomas. I do think the McKissick call isn't bad. And I really like Boston Scott here. Obviously, Boston Scott is in a good spot as well. So, I mean, I think you can get away with fading Hurts. I think I'm going to look to fade Hurts. I mean, I bet a lot of his unders, so I hope those hit. I hope he ends up not playing as much. If I do play him, it's only in the flex. I'm not captaining him. There's no chance you're going to see that in my lineups. No chance at all. Bobby, am I crazy? Like, I mean, I'm typically the guy who plays cash,
not at
right?
all. Like, I think that's the perfect way to approach it. It's just like, I just don't understand why the Eagles just wouldn't play him at this point. Like, just why not? He's a rookie. Just let him get this last game in. But if that's not the case, then yeah, guys like Boston Scott definitely is someone I'd be interested in. I like LT, man. Logan Thomas, a great player. You get Alex Smith, loves the check down. I think he could make for a good play. And defenses, obviously, in this game with this total.
Yeah, no, definitely have to look at those defenses with that total. Titletown. So am I crazy about the Hurts thing? Is there anyone else you want to go to? Like McLaurin is someone that I'm looking at that could be interesting. Like I want to get crazy, especially over on FanDuel, right? Like I love messing with that MVP slot and trying to get like a really unique low-owned MVP option. But again, raw points matter. So break it down for me.
Yeah, so I think you're right about Hurts, especially because a lot of people are just casuals that are just playing this for fun and just looking at it, probably won't know about the Hurts news and that he might be out in the second half. So I think he's going to be over-owned. I would definitely take an underweight approach to that. And my favorite captain, it is a pretty tough slate. I expect it to be lower scoring, must-win game for Washington. So I think they do win. Terry McLaurin, or Scary Terry, is my favorite captain on the slate. Just a beast of a receiver. I think he could tear up this Eagles defense.
Is he playing? Is that confirmed? Like, do you feel good about him being in their title?
Is he not? Or I thought he was.
I know he had the questionable tag, but I'll admit, like, I'm not always sitting here grinding out the Sunday night news. So, but no, yeah, he's expected to play.
Yeah, a must-win game. I feel pretty fine with them too. But yeah, I mean, I'm just starting to kind of dig in and stuff with you as well, just because we had the main slate. I did 1 p.m. I did 4:05 NBA and all that. So we're all digging in together.
Yeah, and I mean, I like McLaurin. Like now that, like, again, if as long as he's in, like, I love playing high upside receivers, right? And it's against the Eagles, and the Eagles, if you look at them, they are terrible in the secondary, right? I know Alex Smith doesn't really hit McLaurin that much. That's one of the concerns. But I mean, I think my top captains right now, I kind of think it's just Redskins. I think I'm going Terry McLaurin. I think I'm going Logan Thomas and McKissick. Like, I think you could throw Gibson in there, but I think I lean those 3 as my favorite captains on this slate. Bobby, how about you? What's your kind of take on that? It sounds like you like Logan Thomas. Do you like those other guys as well?
Yeah, LT, McKissick. I think those guys are fine. We're not going out. You're going Alex Smith, you said?
Not a captain, but I mean, I'll probably get. I mean, I'll probably get him in there.
Player,
right?
Playing the captain, I just don't think it's. Yeah, Logan. What about Cam Sims? Any Cam Sims love?
I mean, I think in the flex maybe, but yeah, I don't need to. And I guess if I play Cam Sims, I probably play Alex Smith maybe in the captain. But the one thing I'll say is, like, that's so valuable about on DK is, like, PPR is so important, right? Like you can just destroy off that, right? And like a guy like JD McKissick, he could get 10 targets in this game. You wouldn't be surprised. And 10 catches and all that PPR it absolutely eats. And it's like, if that game is a low scoring game, Alex Smith won't do enough with the touchdowns, right? Those were only worth 4 points, where I really think that the PPR is worth so much that I want to attack those guys that are getting peppered. I love doing that. That's why I like playing like Allen Robinson, for instance, in the captain spot, because he gets peppered with a ton of PPR action. Deontay Johnson is another guy who I've been playing a ton in my DraftKings captain spot because of all that PPR stuff. So that's why I want to attack those guys and think they're really interesting plays. Titletown, we'll go over to you. Give me your 3 favorite captains on this slate.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Scary Terry, McKissick, And then I'm going to go Jalen Reagor on the Phillies side. He's a big play waiting to happen, and he could break it loose, and he'll be low owned.
Yep, for sure. I think that makes a ton of sense. I guess so. Let's talk about all these other guys. We kind of talked about it from a captain perspective. Now let's talk about it from the flex spot. So, Title, I do have a question I want to ask you on FanDuel. We'll do that later because that's the real basement. I do want to kind of discuss that a bit. But who are some flex guys, Bobby? Talk to me about it on DraftKings here. All those guys we mentioned that I like as captains, I like them in the flex. I do think Title made a good point about going to Reagor. I think he'd be an interesting option. Like him more than going a guy like a Travis Fumagale. Break it down for me. Who are some of the flex options you're looking at, Bobby?
Yeah, like obviously we talked at the top about just playing Jalen Hurts in the flex and not using him as a captain. If he's only going to get a half, I still think he can make value situationally there. Yes. And then going totally on the other side of that, like I don't mind Washington D at all. I don't mind them in the captain. I don't mind them as a flex option. I really like Washington D in the spot. I think they stand out a bunch. Zach Ertz at 4,600. I think he's fine. Greg Ward is another guy in the flex spot that I don't hate. That would kind of be it. Like JD McKissick, LT, like those would be guys I'd be looking to build around as my captains, and then moving into the flex. Like, I don't know, Boston Scott would be another guy. It's way too cheap at 1,400. So I think he's someone that's definitely going to have to make your pool and going to be pretty prevalent in a lot of people's builds. And just as a flex play.
Yeah, I love going Boston Scott. I honestly think you can make the case. Like, would it shock you, Titletown, if, like, let's say Boston Scott was the highest scoring guy in the slate? Would you be surprised at all?
No, I think this game can go a million different ways. Washington Eagles, we don't even know Hurts' situation really. I mean, this game could get gross and really, really be weird. So no, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a guy that I am looking at as getting as an option on this slate. Too good to pass up. I think he's one of the better values on the entire slate here. Titletown. So while we're on the value plays, so this is a little absurd. I mean, if it's stupid, just tell me it's dumb. So if you think Jalen Hurts sits and he only plays like a quarter, or let's say we get news he only plays a quarter, Nate Sudfeld is 5K. I just don't think you need to do it because I think you have Boston Scott there. That's just so cheap. But I don't know. Is it the craziest idea in the world? Again, we have like news from beat reporters. This isn't like, oh, like we think a quarterback's going to get hurt, or, oh, the guy's like limping around and maybe he gets re-injured. Like there is talk about it maybe happening. I think I need more confirmation the closer we get to lock to actually pull the trigger. But if we get more info, do you think it's something you want to do?
Yeah, no, I'm still not on that train just because I think people are actually going to do it and it's going to be more over owned than what it should be, or the possibility it's on the optimal. But I'm a believer in this Washington defense and this front seven. And even if he gets in for a whole half, I think he struggles and it's just not an easy time for him. So it comes back to, like you said earlier, with the full point PPR and stuff on DraftKings. I think the no quarterback route's very viable today. And just take up, if it's a low scoring game and people are catching short passes and this and that, and quarterbacks just aren't getting three touchdowns, it could easily happen with no quarterbacks on the optimal. So I'd rather go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm definitely team, like, I want to capture all these PPR stuff. I just figured I'd ask, right? Because again, I if they say, hey, he's only going to play one quarter, I'm going to think about it at least a little bit. Bobby, how about you? You liked obviously the Washington defense, and I think that was a great call, especially if you see two quarterbacks switching in and out. You get one guy for one half and one for another. It could be an absolute disaster. So I think that was a great call by you. But what did you think of my take and some of these other guys here?
Yeah, like Washington D. I have a question just in general. Like, would you be considering playing? I don't want to sound like Siege, but Chase Daniels and Jalen Hurts.
Oh gosh, I mean, that's totally out there, man. I don't think I could.
One of these like big field GPPs. You know what I mean? Like just trying to.
I'd have to have like and this is like such a crazy thing, but I'm trying to make a unique lineup, right? And I'm also trying not to make it dumb. The problem with this slate too,
likely a dumb lineup. But.
Yeah, the other problem with this slate too that I kind of want to like mention is like we don't have guys to spend on, so I don't even think like some of these like value plays are that necessary. Like I think Boston, like if we didn't have really good value plays, I think Boston Scott is a really good value play. I don't think we'd have to consider that. I guess here's another thing to mention. So Boston Scott, right? He is going to be the lead running back, someone you want to look at. I think Greg Ward is a really interesting receiver option that you can go to on the Eagles side as one of the weapons. I know we haven't talked about too many guys on this. Zach Ertz is there. It's going to be his narrative, the farewell narrative to Zach Ertz, probably his last game in Philly. Also, if you don't know, it's Dallas Goedert's birthday, so there's the birthday narrative for him as well. But I did want to kind of get down here and see if there's any other running backs, right? Could you, instead of being playing Boston Scott, could you go to a Jordan Howard? Could you go to a Hightower? I think you just kind of eat the Boston Scott chalk. I think it's just that good. Titletown. Now, what do you think of these Eagles besides Rieger? I know you mentioned him, but some of the other guys I mentioned, any interest there?
Yeah, I mean, this Eagles, they're just so hard to predict today because we don't even really know what goes on with Hurts. I'm higher on this Washington D than most. So I know I'm going to have a lot more Washington 5-1, 4-2, just because I think they win. I mean, they need to win to go to the playoffs. So that's what I'm leaning. Talking about the value-wise and stuff, like maybe Corey Clement at a full punt at $200 on DraftKings.
Yeah, Goddard.
Oh, wow, we got news. So Goddard's out. I didn't know Goddard was out. But that's big for Zach Ertz then, obviously, right? Zach Ertz obviously is going to be in the farewell game. I think we're going to get more excited about him as another position guy and we kind of needed that. I felt like we needed to get like more guys to spend on. So I'm kind of excited about that one.
So to be honest, I mean, I think Zach Ertz is dusty. So this just makes me more happy to fade Ertz and I'm just go Richard Rodgers, and he's only 400. So this just makes a slate that you can leave a ton of money on the table, not go any quarterbacks, not go Zach Ertz, and then go guys like Richard Rodgers. Corey Clement, I think, is fine for $200 too. I think he gets some run in this game, and if he finds the box somehow, $200, he makes everything else work. I think the optimal today is just going to be something nuts.
So Bobby, like if the Eagles are punting this game, which they could be, right? Like they're not caring. And they're sitting a lot of guys already. They're sitting Goddard, right? I mean, on his birthday, but I mean, come on, you don't want to play on your birthday. I feel like you'd want to play, but like Zach Ertz, it could be the farewell game, right? It could just be like, you've done us great. You were part of that Super Bowl run, everything. Like it could just be, let's get him in there and let's feed him a bit, right? He had 7 targets the last 2 games. I don't know, man. I'm definitely warming up on Ertz. I think he's definitely someone I'm looking at as a really good flex option.
Yeah, you feel like they probably try to get him in the end zone his last game in Philadelphia. I think he's down at 4,600. Like, I don't think it's the worst play. Not a big narrative guy, but I feel like it's a pretty good narrative. He's been a stalwart for that organization for a while, so I don't hate the Ertz call at all. I'd probably be overweight. 4,600 is fine. That's a good price tag.
Trying to so FanDuel, he's 8. Wow. FanDuel, he's 8K. Does that change anything, Titletown? I mean, so on FanDuel, Richard Rodgers is 6, or Richard Rodgers is out too, Titletown. So, I mean, it's always Zach Ertz, man.
It's just Ertz. It's
the Ertz show, man. Yeah, man. It's the Ertz show. Again, like
my projections have not updated. I'm still not playing Zach Ertz. I'm playing these receivers. I'm not playing, and I'm talking tournaments. A cash I haven't looked at yet. So maybe, he makes sense in cash games. If you watch Zach Ertz recently, like just look at him run around in the field. He's not creating any separation. He had a couple games ago, he had like 3 catches for 70 yards, and there was nobody within 70 yards of him when he caught those 3 catches. It felt like, and it took him 20 seconds to run 50 yards. Like I buy in on talent, and I don't think he has a lot of talent anymore.
Well, Title, you buy it on talent. I'm gonna hang up and listen. Like, name me the talent in this game. Who is talented in this game besides
Washington defense?
Jalen Rieger. Yeah, I'm on Washington defense.
Washington
for
D.
Sure.
Let's go.
Washington D is definitely going to be in the conversation for sure, especially if we get more. If we get a backup in there, right? I mean, that would make some sense.
But talented guys. Antonio Gibson's talented. McKissick's talented. Scary Terry, Logan Thomas. Boston Scott's a pretty good football player.
Logan Thomas is not talented. I mean, he's okay. He's fine.
He's a pretty athletic tight end that makes some play. He's a lot more athletic than Zach Ertz. I can promise you that.
It's a fair point. I will give you that. He's definitely more athletic than him right now. But I guess I'm on the narrative more than you. Bobby sounds like he's all in on this Washington D idea. That definitely could make some sense. So Bobby, if you are playing the Washington defense, like how are you correlating that in tournaments? Like how are you kind of handling that situation? Because that's the tough one. I don't know exactly how to put them in. Are you just plugging them in in a random flex spot and calling it a day? Because again, this is a slate where I don't think a lot of points are going to be scored in general. So you are just going to need raw points. And I feel like you're going to need to have that touchdown by the Washington defense.
Yeah. I still think you can play Hurts and play Washington D, because we figure if Hurts is only going to get a half, like that's really all you have to worry about is a half a play. And then you're basically, I think, different. Like you don't have to worry about basically playing Eagles. Like it's not going to be a really high scoring game. I don't mind Washington D in the captain slot. I usually don't like playing defenses in the captain, but I think you can make a case for Washington D in the captain tonight in Showdown. Definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely some stuff you have to look at. So Antonio Gibson, someone in the chat said no love for him. Title talked about him a little bit being talented. Bobby, do you worry about the Eagles run D a bit? Or maybe we get some inactives, right? Like look on the defensive side. Maybe we get some guys inactive on the Eagles where it makes it a little easier to run.
You don't need to worry about, you could play Gibson today. Like there's not like, you can't really, it's tough to like really needle pick like who we're going to put. Like there's only so much talent. Like Title said, basically play the talent, and there's only so much talent on the slate. So I think Gibson's definitely fine.
All right. So play the talent. I mean, you guys said it, play the talented guys, and we just kind of move on. Give me Title time. So give me basically your core, right? Give me your favorite captain and give me 2 flex plays. Bobby, you do the same. I'll do it, and then we'll kind of get on out of here. So Title talent, kick it off first at the top. Where are you going there?
I'll go Scary Terry as my captain. Antonio Gibson is a flex, and then I need 1 Eagle, so I'll go Jalen Reagor.
All right, we'll go to you, Bobby. Give me your captain. Give me your 2 flex guys.
Yeah, I'll go Logan Thomas, Washington D. Let's stick with Washington D. I'm not going to do Boston Scott. Like that's pretty much the obvious play. Third, I guess Zach Ertz. Going with Zach Ertz, going to chase that narrative, get him in the box. So him at 4,600, I think is fine.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles are really punting this game. I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, Cox is out too. So give me McLaurin as my captain. I love McLaurin today. Give me Antonio Gibson. And then give me Boston Scott as one of my flex guys. And actually, Titletown gave McLaurin as the captain. So I'll go with Antonio Gibson as my captain instead. Because again, if Cox can be out, that's obviously helpful. So I'll go Gibson as my captain. Obviously, I'm expecting the Redskins to be leading, so that's good for the game script. We'll go with McLaurin, and the cheap guy, I'm going with Boston Scott, who can catch some passes out of the backfield as an interesting option. But that'll wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. We appreciate it. But we're going to get on out of here. Thanks a lot for joining us on the NBA and NFL Showdown show. For me, Mangone, Titletown, and Bobby, we're out of here.
Good luck, guys.